Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Fandom Show. Hope you're having a good night tonight. We're talking about professional wrestling this time around. As you can see, I've got the set all decked out with various wrestling paraphernalia. I'm also wearing a retro Rob Van Dam t-shirt for the occasion, which is very cool. Earlier on Facebook, I put out the question, what do John Cena, a Canadian passport, and the President of the United States have in common? Well, the answer is they all play into this story that I'm about to tell you about WrestleMania 23. Now, I've been to two WrestleManias in my life. The first one was WrestleMania X8 in Toronto in 2002, and the second one was WrestleMania 23 in Detroit in 2007, which was just about 13 years ago. Now, the thing about it is, in 2007, it wasn't a situation where I had planned out months ahead that I was going to go to WrestleMania and I bought my tickets and I'd arranged everything and all that. I literally decided 3 days before the show that I was going to go. Which I know sounds absolutely nuts, but hey, I was 25 at the time, I had money, I had time on my hands, and I knew that WrestleMania was in Detroit, and initially I hadn't really given much consideration to going, but the more I thought about it, that's only about 3 hours from where I live. Take a look at this map and you'll see how close it is. So essentially it boiled down to the fact that I didn't have any plans that weekend. I wanted to do something, and I just kept dwelling on the fact that, hey, WrestleMania is happening only 3 hours away from me. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I have the time. I have the money. Why don't I go to this thing? Now, you might think it'd be a case where I call up a couple friends and say, hey, you want to try to get this together? No, I decided to go to WrestleMania by myself in Detroit. Now, mind you, I had never been to Detroit at this time in my life. So I'm going into another country, to a city that I've never been to, all by myself to see this major wrestling show. What could possibly go wrong? Ladies and gentlemen, Detroit. So at this point, I need to make a public apology. Mom, I'm sorry. You see, I told my mother when I went to the show that I was going with friends because I knew she'd be scared for me if I went by myself, but I was actually going by myself. So again, Mom, I'm sorry. I promise you I will make it up to you sometime. Anyway, I got into Detroit. Everything went fine over the border. I actually got in a few hours earlier than I anticipated. So I wanted to get something to eat because I was hungry. Now again, I've never been to Detroit before, and this was before smartphones, okay? So I did not have Google Maps. I did not have GPS. All I had in my pocket was a folded piece of paper with printed directions from MapQuest. Everybody remember MapQuest? From the transit terminal where I was getting off to the arena where the show was. So I'm like, I don't want to get lost in freaking Detroit where I've never been before in my life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start heading to the arena, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll find a restaurant along the way. Now, I didn't know this at the time, I do now, but the path, the route from the transit terminal to the arena where WrestleMania was actually goes through some less than pleasant parts of town, but I didn't really have a problem. I mean, it was light of day. It was the middle of the afternoon, so it's not like I'm going through at 3 in the morning or anything like that. But anyway, I didn't have any problems there. I just basically got to a point where I was hungry, I was hot, I wanted to eat. I looked across the street, and there's literally a bar right there. So I looked down the street, and there's not a whole lot there. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going into this bar. I'm having a drink. I'm having some food. So I go into the bar. A bunch of the people that are going to WrestleMania in there. A bunch of guys wearing wrestling shirts and stuff. So I didn't make any friends or anything like that because I was very, very introverted at the time. But anyhow, I had some good food. I cannot remember what I ate, only that it tasted really, really good. And after I was done with that, I headed to the arena to check out WrestleMania. This was the official poster for the event. So yes, it was about time for WrestleMania. Here's the ticket for the aforementioned show. I know you can't see it up close. It says that I paid $150 for it. And I was sitting in a spot. I was actually not way up in the nosebleeds like you might think, but I was definitely up there. It wasn't a bad view though, because if you've ever been to Ford Field, which is where the Detroit Lions play and where WrestleMania was, it's actually very open inside, and anywhere you're sitting, you're actually going to get a very reasonable view. Obviously, if you're higher up, the wrestlers are going to be tiny, but you'll still have a clear shot at the ring. So here's a picture of basically a view of the football field from the section that I was sitting in. Okay, now here's where the presidential angle comes in. One of the matches on the card that night was called the Battle of the Billionaires. The actual match was between a guy named Umaga and a wrestler by the name of Bobby Lashley. And go figure, Stone Cold Steve Austin was the referee. This was the official preview for the match featuring Trump. There was a billionaire in each corner. In one corner was Vince McMahon, and in the other corner was, you guessed it, Donald Trump. And the idea was that whichever guy lost the match, their billionaire would get their head shaved. Well, of course, anybody who knows Donald Trump knows he's not about to get his head shaved publicly. So, of course, his guy won the match and Vince McMahon got his head shaved. I didn't get to meet the Donald personally, but I did see him on the big screen during that match. I did see him try to punch out Vince McMahon. So that was certainly kind of interesting. Now, I ended up bailing on the show in the middle of the main event between John Cena and Shawn Michaels, and the only reason I did that because, again, it's nighttime now. I've never been to Detroit before, and I'm like, I want to get the heck out of here before the crowds get insane for my own sanity. So I left probably about 15 minutes before the end of the show. I got in a cab to take me back to the transit terminal because there's no way I'm walking back the way I came at nighttime in a strange town that I don't know well. And I tipped the cabbie really well because I was excited. I was pumped coming out of WrestleMania. It was a great night. And then I left the cab to the transit terminal and waited for my bus to take me back to Canada. Unfortunately, I left my wallet in the cab. No joke. I was in the transit terminal. I went to reach for my wallet. It's not there. Holy crap. So I call my bank in Canada. I say, my wallet's gone. You need to cancel my cards. By the time they'd canceled them, somebody had already tried to buy gas with my cards. Now, thank God that my passport, my Canadian passport, and my ticket back home were in a separate pocket in my jacket and not in my wallet in any way, shape, or form. So even though it was a terrible inconvenience not having my wallet, at least I'd be able to get back into the country and go home. Now, here's where this gets a little crazier. When I got back into Canada, the bus dropped me off about 20 minutes from where I actually lived. So I would need to get another bus back into my town to be able to get to work on time the next day. Well, normally that wouldn't be a problem, but I had no wallet. So I literally had to go around the bus terminal, and beg people for money so that I could scrounge up enough change to hop a bus and get to work that day. Fortunately, I found a lady who was very helpful and gave me the money to afford that bus fare. So in the end, the story worked out okay. But man, did I ever go from being excited and pumped to being, oh my God, what the heck, my wallet's gone. Of all the times I've ever lost a wallet, which mind you has not been much, that was probably one of the worst. But everything worked out okay. I made it home the next day. I was safe. I was happy. I was healthy. There's a lot of things that couldn't have gone wrong. Thank God they didn't. And that was my fun little WrestleMania 23 adventure. I hope you enjoyed it. Our next episode is going to be the character study of Kylo Ren. I've been very excited about it. I hope you have been too. It's going to be a great time. Thanks so much for watching tonight.